Hi, welcome to class. We're the only two right now, but the other ones will show up eventually, right? I hate my life. I hate my life. A Professor Sunreis Productions! Hello class, Professor Sunreis here. As promised, here's another replay analysis of me playing my Break Spright list. I've tinkered with the deck a little bit more, and I've found out a few cute tags which I really enjoy. So, without further ado, don't forget to like and subscribe, leave some feedback down below. And before we get into this replay, please feel free to send me replays down to the email in the description below. I would love to go over some replays of you viewers. So without further ado, let's get right into the replay. So here we are in the replay. We are up against Daddy or Daddy with 1267 rating, and we are at 1124 rating. We lose the rock, paper, scissors. Let's pause here for a second. We have pure Diva Spright versus my Brave Spright list. The opponent is on Diva, Ash, Valor, Jet, and Prosperity. An insane hand, by the way. And we are on Ronin, Foolish, Dracoback, Angler, and Polymerization. I guess it's an okay hand. It has one break, but the rest of the hand is pretty solid. I guess two breaks with the Ronin, but in the end, it's just a normal summon body, so it doesn't matter really what we draw for that. So the opponent start out with the Diva, summoning Diva from the deck. Them having full combo here is pretty bad for us. 2 hand traps plus starter plus like normal summon starter plus Spright starter is pretty good. So they decided to add a starter here. Makes total sense here. They want to access the whole Spright engine, of course. So they decided to go into an Hulk Fibrex, summoning an Ogre. This will be later bounced by a Swap Frog, of course. Summoning an Ogre here basically telegraphs at least an Ash Blossom. But usually also a Valor, because Ogre is really the third thing you want to summon out of your deck, as Valor and especially Ash are just more generically applicable. Ogre is really only good against Spright, so the opponent doesn't know that we are on Spright, especially because we're on 42 cards, so this could definitely telegraph T elements. So getting an Ogre here tells me that they have Starter, Ash, and Valor in the hand at this point. At least this was what I was thinking. So, overlaid Hulky Fibrex and the Summon Diva, the Jet, I think it was, the Jet, into Gigantic, effect Gigantic, summon Swap Frog effect, bounce the Ogre, and now they can link off Swap Frog and Gigantic into Elf, and then use the Elf to revive Swap Frog, effect Swap Frog, go into Ronin, and now Ronin effect, summon the Toad. At this point, I decide to go for Prosperity. In the mirror, you usually only really want to go for Prosperity for 3. As the mirror is just so grindy, it's really hard to make use out of your extra deck if you go for Prosperity 6. They open a Diva, an Ogre, and a Smashers. The Diva is really annoying because I thought they already used all of the Divas at that point because I saw it in the graveyard here. Which will come up later, definitely. I remember that, seeing it with the Prosperity, and then my mind was, oh, they used all of the Divas, but they didn't, of course. So they added the Smashers, they set Starters, set Smashers, pass turn with basically everything known at this point, at least in my head. We draw a Jet, so this is perfect. Now we got our hard copy of his Spright name. They decided to use Totally Awesome here, which is perfect for us. So summoning a Swap Frog, so now our Super Polymerization is live, and if you have an alive Super Polymerization, you always want to go just Battle Phase, because if they don't use the Elf at that point, you're basically good for. End of main phase, they declare an Elf effect, summoning the Jets to get the follow-up from next turn, of course. Jet effect, what do they go for here? A Starter, of course. So now we still know everything in hand, of course. So here we are thinking and just Super Polymerization, pitching Nimble Angler. This is an insane power play. Really, really good for us here. Summoning the Garura, effect Angler, no Ash. Definitely interesting. I was for sure thinking this was gonna get ashed here, but they want the Toad recycle. So now they can get a Swap Frog, so no Deep Sea Diva for whatever reason. So we summon out the 2 Beavers out of our deck. No smashes at that point, of course, so here we decide to go for Foolish Burial and see if we can bait an Ash. Definitely thought the Ogre would be coming down on the Brave Engine here once we actually decide to resolve this here. I don't know what's happening here. So we send the Enchantress. Enchantress gets hit, met by an Ash immediately. We summon the Spright Jet. This gets hit by a Veiler. So at this point, we had traded 3 disruptions already. So we're only having to deal with the Smashers and an Ogre, and we still have plenty of tools available to us. So here we decided to, I think, overlay, but we didn't want to do it exactly yet because we were just, okay, we go battle phase here, trade with both of these, so they have to use their smashers preemptively and not on our link 2 or something, or an XYZ. So just calling battle phase here, in my opinion, the correct play. We do miss the draw of Garura here. If they decide to smash it, because we force out and smash it, it's probably gonna get hit by Garura. But we feel like this is still the play. In hindsight, it's maybe not the play because the opponent will keep their elf on board here. They just missed that for some reason. They just didn't do it. They banished it with an with the smashers, I think. Yes. So it's definitely a misplay because there's no way of actually outing the smashers at that point. So the Jet runs into the defense position. Jet definitely in the mirror. I think you always want to summon them in attack position, just because the attack values are so low. You really want to do that. So now we decided to link into an Airy, affect Airy, force out the last disruption in the form of an Ogre. In hindsight, if we've gone for a Gigantic here, this would have been Ogred, and then we had these two go for Airy and Toad, but then we only have a Toad and no engine of our own. So this gets Ogred, but this getting Ogred is really good for us because this will give us an actual swap frog, so we actually got the frog engine going. And then we use swap frog effect, pitch the Ronin. By the way, Airy is the most important charmer in the mirror. It is so strong to force out a revive. This is why I really like a Beaver package and the Angler package, just because it gives you access to the blues, to the waters. So swap frog, send another swap frog, Ronin Toad effect. Now they activate a starter before we can make a Toad. Really important to do that before, because in the mirror, setting cards with Toad is even more broken than it is usually, because you will have immediate value out of them. So I decided to activate blue, search a Jet, so now we know they have starter, Jet, and swap frog, so we will definitely be in a grind game. But now there's no destruction left, so we can full combo after with this Gigantic. So we use Gigantic, summon a blue effect, search probably a red at this point. Thinking here you could go for a carrot here, because we know they have a starter, but starter's not really that important. Just getting the red is, in my opinion, more important because of the amount of monster effects going on here. There is the Sky Cavalry push, but we basically can't do anything about that, and if they go for that, they have wasted their battle phase, and we will have definite resources left, so we should be fine here. Elf revive swap frog, send another swap frog, Ronin Toad in effect, so we've used 2 of our 3 swap frogs here. Now we go for a Toad, and then go for a red. I was thinking about maybe going for a Pit Knight route here, because if they decide to go for the Sky Cavalry, we could have used Elf and then chain Pit Knight. If they decided to chain Starter on the Elf, we can summon the blue in this column and then use the Pit Knight again on the blue summon, just making it so that they cannot run over us with battle. In hindsight, it's maybe the best play here. We definitely still had it because we didn't use Prosperity, so probably would have been the correct play to just go for the Pit Knight route here. The opponent draws an Impermanence, which is very annoying, but it's luckily not alive, because they used the starter, of course. So now they decided to just normal summon a swap rock. They also have a Rodent Totem with 1 swap in grave, so they have plenty of resources. So they decide to go for the Sky Cavalry. They declare battle phase. We go for a blue here. Effect blue will be adding us as Spright. Pixies, definitely a very important card. I ultimately decided to play this card still just because the deck is so grindy and you want that extra name, you want that extra utility plenty of time. So They decide to use the attack with his centaur. If we, like I said, the play here, we could have negated that. But then the opponent didn't commit into the battle phase. And we had overall the same amount of disruption. Actually, we didn't have the same amount of disruption. We'd had more. So they decide to use the Zeus. We chain red here. They decide to chain, of course. We decide to chain with Toad. So ultimately we are able to set the Zeus in our side. Definitely an important resource, especially a 3k beat stick in a simplified game stack like this is nothing to scoff at. This is definitely a very good threat to pick up. So we add back a beaver. So we have another play for next turn together with this swap frog. And now the opponent is free to play. They still have the Ronin summon, they still have starter jet, so they have full Spright engine going. But without a battle phase, this will be definitely very doable. They also have no smashes left, so they cannot really remove lots of our bodies here. They do add a smashes, so they are playing 2 smashes. Okay, definitely interesting. 2 smashes in the main. Some people are on it, but honestly, it's just so bricky going second. It's really hard to be like, okay, this is how I want to play it. I do side a second smashes just because it's so good against so many matchups, but in the main deck, I don't know if it's really necessary. So they linked into an elf here, elf effect, revive Toad, and then use the Ronin Toadin effect one last time. I think, yeah, this was their last Ronin Toadin effect. They link into the Xyz into a Gigantic. I don't know why they've gone for that. You definitely want to keep an elf on the board here. Maybe they want to go for another elf. I can't quite remember. So they summon out the blue, get the red, summon red effect starter for Carrot, probably? Yeah, for Carrot. They want to go for it like that, and then they go for... Oh, okay, so they go for the Onibaru Soul Sweeper here. Effect of that on the elf. But this is just not... because I'm 100% gonna get a next turn, I will still have the elf in the next turn to summon a Toad, so this is not really that strong. Set Smashes, set Imperm, draw for turn a starter, which is of course an insane pickup. I would have loved the Brave Engine as well, just because we haven't actually used that here. But yeah, starter is definitely a good pickup. So here we have plenty of plays we can go for. We have a quick DC here, big think here. Ultimately, we will just go play or play here. So we activate the Beaver effect. They decide to let this go through. We summon out of the deck, I think. Yeah, out of deck, the Angler. We have no value for it, so better get it out of the deck. By the way, the ratio is 2 Angler, 2 Beaver, but more on that on the profile once I think I only need 1 more card ordered in real life. This is on its way. The deck profile will definitely come. I feel very confident with this form of deck. Definitely things could change here and there, of course, but overall, I really like it and feel comfortable enough to showcase you guys. So stay tuned for the upcoming deck profile of my Spright Brave list. So we decide to go for an elf here. Effect elf on the Toad. This definitely forces out the disruption immediately. So decide to chain red. We decide to chain red as well, sending the Beaver. They chain a Toad here. Setting our red, which is kind of annoying, but nothing really we can do about that. Effect summon, effect Toad, get the Diva back. So at this point we thought, okay, this Diva cannot summon anything back, but it actually can. So here we decide to go for a starter. Summon blue, effect blue, gets met by an Imperm. Now we use the Ronin effect, the last time we have it. Summon the Toad, and here we, I think, what are we doing here? No, we don't go. I think we go into battle phase because we want them to use smashes on the Spright Gigantic. Yeah. So here we go for Zeus. They decide to smashes, banish red, banish Zeus. So now we have free reign over them. We can go into a dark, effect dark, get the jet probably. Yes, get jet. And then effect jet, get the smashes. So we still have some form of disruption on the opponent. And we have a dark to get some follow-up once it gets removed here. And we still have the elf to get back. So we still have 2 disruptions because we can revive a Toad, of course. Set jet, end phase, elf gets back on our field. So this is an insane game one. Opponent draws Prosperity, which is that draw because they have 2 cards in the extra deck, one of which should be an elf, I think. One elf is here. The other elf is under the Gigantic. So it probably should be an elf because you don't really want to banish an elf in a mirror. Oh, they didn't know it was a mirror. So the first option they do is summon this, flip the Spright red on this. We activate the elf, summon targeting the toad. They chain the elf here, which is totally fine. In hindsight, you could have in standby activate smashes on an elf, on the red. But that would have just turned make them have a Gigantic Spright on board. So the one play we could have stopped. Then they had a Gigantic Spright to just get back into the engine. So at this point, it doesn't really matter how we sequence this. Elf is gonna get stopped no matter what. If we did it like that, of course, we would have had. Probably it's better to do it like that. Probably should have in standby phase smashes on the Gigantic. But if we smash up the Gigantic, the opponent could have just normal summoned Diva, and we wouldn't be able to disrupt that. Definitely interesting, because they don't really have that many plays here left. Reviving the... letting the elf on the board is probably the best thing we can do. But anyways, here we go for... they go for a Diva. Summon the last elf. This would have come out no matter what, so it honestly doesn't really matter too much. So we decide to smash us on the elf here, just to get rid of the most important resources the opponent has. They get a toad, and then they decide to crash into the Charmer. Effect of that, getting ourselves, I think we have 2 jet left? Yeah, 2 jet, 1 blue, so we decided to get a jet, because we already still have a smashes as well, a starter, so we can go for that. We decided to, we opened a Prosperity. We decided to let this Prosperity, I think we do, yeah, okay, we activate this. So we activate it for 3, because we have still have plenty resources, and it's just a free excavate, basically. We decided to act a call by it, because there are so many cards which let us play here, and the opponent is on 1 play maximum. At 1 negate maximum, so we can just call by the toad, and then we should be fine. We just set the call by here just in case something happens. The opponent gets an imperm, which is definitely a good pickup. I was very confident that I would not be dying here because the opponent used so many of their resources already. The likelihood of them opening something strong was quite low, and we had no play whatsoever there. If we, for example, get the starter, they would just toad negate it and they would have a play. So there's no point of getting that. We draw in right, which is the perfect pickup. Finally, we are able to play the Brave Engine after like 5 turns or something. Activate right, get the adventure. And now we use the adventure to get the Draco back, which has been in our hand the whole game. Get that into the graveyard, effect Draco back. And effect Draco back on the red, of course, because this is our copy of red, so getting it back for free and getting rid of 1 card the opponent has is pretty strong, and they did just admit defeat. We have everything at that point. So that was an insane game 1. Let's see if game 2 can be even better. We have to go second again. Opening hand on our part is Swap Frog. Let's pause here. Swap Frog, Griffin, Enchantress, Ride, and Beaver. And the opponent is on call by Prosperity, Imperm, Ash, and Diva. So they have 2 hand traps, a starter, a protection, and basically the same hand as they had before. And we have no board breaker yet, but we have a pretty strong hand nonetheless. Brave Engine is really good against Spright, of course, going second. It pressures out a lot. So opponent decides to activate Gigantic here with the Diva immediately going into that. Not using Prosperity to fish for a Spright card. It's interesting, but I think they feel very confident with 3 disruptions, non-engine disruptions, to just get the Spright loop going. Also, by not going into Toad, you don't open up Airy lines while breaking the board, which is definitely very interesting and has to be thought about as well, because like I said, the Airy line is so strong. It's so hard to disrupt properly. Yeah, so definitely an interesting decision by the opponent. They decide to Prosperity for 6 after summoning into an elf. I don't know about that. If you go for Prosperity 6, might as well do it earlier. They get a starter, an anti-spell. Let's see. Starter, Ash, Anti-Spell, Jet, Swap Frog, Prosperity. So they probably will take the Anti-Spell. Yes, they do take the Anti-Spell here. probably the correct thing. Anti-spell is just the most the strongest card, and like with 2 hand traps, 1 anti-spell, 1 called by, and the full Spright engine going, you feel very confident. Set 4, Ash in hand. This is very strong. We draw another Enchantress, which of course doesn't do a lot. They activate an anti-spell. We have no answer to that. So now we just normal summon a Beaver. Effect gets met by an Imperm, and afterwards they are going to activate the Elf here, summoning the blue effect. Probably get Jet, I would assume. Yeah, getting Jet. So they're probably going to, yes, Smashes set up here so they can hopefully completely get us out of our engine, but we are fine with Beaver getting banished, so we can now use the Griffin here. Then Swap Frog, effect Swap Frog, banish, send Enchantress, effect Swap Frog, gets met by an Ash, but this is totally fine. We just decide here, okay, quick think here, you could go into an Elf, but doesn't really accomplish a lot. We just go for an Airy here. The thing is with Elf, if this was an Imperm and we Elfed here, the Elf would have just gotten negated, and then we had nothing to crash in. And if we go for an Airy and it gets Imperm, we at least can run over one of their bodies, getting rid of more resources in the meantime. So we get the Diva here, go into Gigantic, and then Battle Phase, run over the 1 Gigantic they have. Main 2, just overlay into a Zeus. You could go for full combo here, but getting rid of more resources is probably correct. Zeus is a very strong card against Spright, so nothing to scoff at here. Swap Frog, called by the grave on the Swap Frog in succession to the, in chain I would say, into the Zeus. So we wipe the whole board. Here we go for Enchantress line. We already used our normal summon. You cannot activate the card of normal summon effects, but we did it, so we cannot go for the Brave line here. We try to go for it here for a second, but the opponent catches onto it. Definitely something which happens sometimes, where you start out, you play with a normal summon, and super late into the turn you get access to the Brave engine. Something like that just happens. Just take it back. This is nothing to really like worry about. Just take everything back, revert the game set, stuff like that happens. We are still in a very good position. They have no graveyard resources. They have just 1 Jet, so we should be fine. We still add, of course, with the Enchantress, so we have right and Enchantress for next turn. Opening draw is in starter, which is of course a very good pickup, but not enough here, because the way the deck plays, it needs way too many bodies to make use out of that, because they cannot really go for a red line here to protect any meaningful plays, because red needs to get rid of 1 body, and they have 3 bodies, and only 2 bodies equal 1 play. So if you have 3 bodies and you need 2 bodies for a play, and red needs to get rid of 1 body, you will ultimately only be left with a red. So this is nothing where you have to like shotgun the blue now, the Zeus, because the opponent will have a red. You can just chill. They will need 2 bodies to make use of the red, and 1 body to make use of the red, but 2 bodies to make a real play. So we are pretty fine here. So they decided to summon the red here. Then they decided to summon the Jet. Jet effect, they could get another Smashes, but then they also don't really have too many plays after that. They can go for an Elf here, Elf Revive, nothing really too major. Another Elf, okay. So they have Negate and Destroy on the Zeus, but this is not too crucial, honestly. They decide to go for a Gigantic, because this can run over the Zeus now, but we can just chain the Zeus on the declaration. They will chain red, negate and destroy. They are stuck with 1 red and 1 starter. Opening draw isn't droplet, which is perfect. The opponent instant by phase activates starter to get a carried out to counter 1 Rite of Eremisia. But they are out of Gigantic Spright. So even if we didn't draw the droplet here, next turn we would have had another Rite, and they would have needed an exactly like a Spright card, or any level 2, or any body on the field basically, to get into Elf, to get back into the engine. But at that point we still would have survived for another turn and could have had some place. So we activate the Rite, we chain the droplet on that, And at this point, this is game. They know we have Enchantress plus Brave Engine. This is no Spright Engine, of course. By the way, they didn't know that we playing Illegal Knight. We used the Griffin already, but we had an Illegal Knight in our deck, so we could have just played an Illegal Knight control at that point. So, hope you guys enjoyed this video. The Spright mirror match is definitely very interesting. I feel like I've played like 1 or 2 turns badly there, or like 1 or 2 plays were incorrect, but like I said, I'm still learning the deck. Especially a Spright mirror in turn 3 or turn 4 is kind of hard, and there's very hard to see the optimal route after only like 10 or 20 games with the decks. I still hope you enjoyed it. Hope you enjoyed the journey of me going for a more competitive deck than virtual. Like I said and promised you guys, I will still do virtual content with new ban list coming hopefully soon. Pop up Mommy Chanchin, please give it to us. I will still definitely do a virtual profile for you for the new format. But other than that, with the YCS being announced and a few good big tournaments here in the next 2 or 3 weeks, I really wanted the most competitive deck available to me, so I decided to switch it to Spright to get some of those nice and sweet tops going for me. So, hope you guys enjoyed this replay analysis. The class is dismissed. You are free to leave. Professor Sunreis out. Peace. I wonder if Mommy Shenshin is gonna spank me for switching to Spright. I hope she does.